Egypt dispatches its 27th aid convoy to Gaza, crossing via the Kerem Abu Salem border. The Gulf Cooperation Council's final communiqué stresses the urgent need for a comprehensive ceasefire in Gaza following its latest meeting. President Vladimir Putin states that Russia and Iran remain in constant communication on key international matters, including Iran's nuclear program.
والله العظيم ولا حبة رز، والله العظيم والله حبة عدس. ما فيش أكل، ما فيش شرب، عندي بنت 2.5 صارت تشرب.
Good evening and welcome to Q News' main evening bulletin. I'm Mark Summers. Egypt has dispatched its 27th aid convoy under the Provision of Honour from Egypt to Gaza initiative, from Rafah to Gaza via Kerem Abu Salem border crossing. The second batch of Egypt's 27th humanitarian aid convoy has departed toward Gaza. This convoy carries essential supplies including rice, infant formula, flour, oil, sugar and cheese. Trucks also transport canned meals and legumes to support those in need. Despite ongoing Israeli bombardment on Gaza, efforts continue to deliver aid. However, Israel persists in blocking fuel trucks from entering the Gaza Strip. The Egyptian convoy includes aid sent from Arab and Islamic countries through Arish. Notably, this shipment contains large quantities of personal care items, specifically for women and children, underscoring the urgent humanitarian response amid conflict. Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli has strongly condemned Israel's expanded military operations in Gaza and its attempts to render the region uninhabitable, forcibly displacing Palestinians. He denounced Israeli settler violence and settlement activities in the West Bank, aimed at undermining the two-state solution. Speaking at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Plus Summit in Tianjin, Madbouli highlighted the devastating toll on Palestinian civilians and called for an immediate ceasefire, urging Israel to accept a temporary truce to negotiate peace and Gaza's reconstruction under the Arab Islamic plan. He reaffirmed Egypt's support for a Palestinian state within the 1967 borders and backed Chinese initiatives for global reforms and financial system overhaul to aid developing nations. Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdul Ati has highlighted the rapidly worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza, warning that conditions have reached famine levels. That came during his meeting with US Senators Chris Van Hollen and Jeff Merkley, where he cautioned against the grave consequences of expanding military operations in Gaza. The Egyptian Foreign Minister firmly reiterated Egypt's absolute rejection of any plans to forcibly displace Palestinians from their land. Abdul Ati also listened to the senators' impressions following their visit to Al Arish and Rafah, where they observed Egypt's ongoing efforts to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza's residents. The discussions underscored Egypt's commitment to alleviating suffering and upholding Palestinian rights. Now let's cross over to the newsroom where Rana is waiting for us. Rana.
Thank you so much, Mark. And for further analysis, we're joined from Cairo by the chairman of the Board of Directors of the International Commission to Support Palestinian Rights, Dr. Salah Abdul Ati. Welcome to Q News, sir. And how do you view Egypt's ongoing efforts to provide Gaza Strip with essential humanitarian aid at this very critical point of what's going on, of atrocities, of course, in light of atrocities and genocides, and women and children that are killed every day on purpose, sir.
Greetings to you and to your audience, and greetings to all our kin in the Gaza Strip who are being exposed to ongoing slaughter for the 23rd month. It is a methodical ethnic cleansing which made Gaza to be declared a starvation region. And since the slaughtering war started, we saw efforts, Egypt's tremendous efforts, bonded with Qatar, that resulted in the entry of many tons of humanitarian aid. And unfortunately, it was barricaded and blocked by the occupation state of Israel, who did not permit the entry of humanitarian aid. Egypt, on the contrary, tried to make many of the humanitarian aid trucks and convoys enter, but Israel only permitted a few trucks, which did not meet the needs, the augmenting needs of the people in the Gaza Strip. So Egypt is providing the Gaza Strip with life itself. They are aiding women and children, and unfortunately the majority of those who martyred by the war are women and children. Because they are being
could the war in the Gaza continue until the end of the year without a comprehensive solution? And can you see this possible in light of all that's ongoing at this point, and that Israel does not want to reach a consensus, and does not want to reach a ceasefire, or does not want to even put on the table any possible solution to this catastrophe that's taking place in the Gaza Strip, but the displacement of the Palestinians, which is very obvious in light of course, the killings of women and children, which are 83% of the citizens of Gaza now at this point.
Yes, Israel and the United States are making plans to forcefully displace Palestinians. They are all denying the efforts to stop the war and put an end to the massacre. And on the contrary, the intermediaries and they showed that the resistance agreed to all the conditions for a ceasefire to be in effect. On the other side, the Americans, the Israelis, backed by the Americans, want to initiate a forceful displacement of Palestinians, and they violate all the international laws and regulations. They want to destroy the remainings of civil services in Gaza, but we must put pressure on Israel and to put an end to the genocide of the Palestinian people. Israel refuses all rightful efforts. They refuse the entry of humanitarian aid.
Yes, you told me, sir, and I got this. What is your take on Netanyahu's repeated statements that the war will not stop until its objectives are fully achieved?
This is an affirmation that the war in itself is an objective of Netanyahu and his cabinet. The Israeli society, especially in the matter of detainees and the public opinion, they want to eliminate the possibility of establishing a Palestinian state, and they want to move further and elaborate on the establishment of a greater Israel, which will have lands of neighboring nations as well, as long as occupying the whole territory of Palestine. It is done while receiving a support and unwavering support from the American administration, and now all the world must be knowing this, that Israel is posing a threat to the international peace efforts, and that the United States must reread into the relation, its relation with Israel, and we want a rightful solution for the Palestinian cause. This is our wish and will.
We all hope for a resolution, sir, as soon as possible. That was Dr. Saleh Abdelati from Cairo, the chairman of the board of directors of the International Commission to Support Palestinian Rights. Thank you very much for joining us on Q News. And now we go back to Mark Summers in our studio. Mark.
Thank you, Rana. Rana Al-Qassas there in our newsroom. Now, Palestinian presidency spokesperson Abil Abu Radaina has condemned all Israeli annexation and settlement activities as illegitimate and destructive to regional and global security. He described Israel's attempts to annex the West Bank as blatant violations of international law and UN Security Council resolutions 242 from 1967, 338 from 1973 and 2334 from 2016. Which invalidate any legal claim to the occupied Palestinian territories. Abu Radaina accused Israel of undermining peace efforts and the two-state solution, urging the international community to take concrete steps to halt these plans, recognize Palestine, and enforce UN resolutions supporting Palestinian self-determination within 1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as its capital. The Gulf Cooperation Council's final communique from its recent meeting emphasized the urgent need for a comprehensive ceasefire agreement in Gaza. It called for the immediate release of detainees and the facilitation of humanitarian aid access to the besieged territory. The communique reaffirmed support for Israel's withdrawal and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. The GCC welcomed the agreement to resolve the crisis in Syria's Soweda, stressing its implementation to protect Syria's unity and citizens. It also praised Lebanon's cabinet decision to centralize arms under state control and underscored the importance of continued constructive negotiations on Iran's nuclear file. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Palestinian Vice President Hussein Sheikh have emphasized the urgent need to link Gaza with the West Bank under full Palestinian sovereignty and call for Israel's complete withdrawal from Gaza. During the Vice President's Riyadh visit, they reviewed recent developments and reaffirmed support for the Palestinian cause. They prioritized an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, humanitarian aid delivery, and Palestinian state responsibility over the sector. They stressed ongoing efforts to secure international recognition of Palestine. Meanwhile, Gaza's humanitarian crisis worsens under Israeli blockade and relentless bombing since October 7th, alongside escalating Israeli assaults, raids, and arrests in the occupied West Bank. The Commissioner General of UNRWA Agency, Felipe Lazzarini, has said that Gaza has become a pile of rubble, and the same applies to its education system. In statements reported by the agency on its official page on the X platform on Monday evening, he noted that Israeli forces have destroyed most schools and educational facilities in Gaza or caused them severe damage. The Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani announced his country's readiness to send special forces as part of a United Nations mission to help reunify Gaza and the West Bank. He stressed the need to build the Palestinian state before recognizing it in cooperation with Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the Arab countries leading this process. French and international media outlets displayed banners on front pages and websites demanding protection for journalists in Gaza in a campaign organized by Reporters Without Borders and AVA. RSF says 220 journalists have been killed since Israel's assault on Gaza began in October 2023, with at least 56 allegedly targeted by Israeli forces. Over 260 media outlets from 72 countries joined the protest as Palestinian journalists continue to plead for evacuation amid severe conditions. Israel's foreign ministry dismissed the campaign as a biased political manifesto. The protest follows the August 25th strike on Nasser Hospital, which killed 5 journalists and sparked global condemnation.
We're trying to make a deal so that there's no destruction and death.
Russian President Vladimir Putin said that Russia and Iran are in constant communication on various international issues, including those related to Iran's nuclear program. Putin met with his Iranian counterpart Masoud Pezeshkian on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in China. Turkey's President Erdogan has expressed to Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian his support for Tehran's ongoing nuclear negotiations, describing them as beneficial. Speaking at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in China, Erdogan affirmed Turkey's commitment to backing Iran in this matter. Additionally, he highlighted the mutual advantages of energy cooperation between the neighboring countries, emphasizing the positive impact of their collaboration. This dialogue underscores Turkey's diplomatic engagement with Iran, aiming to foster stability and economic partnership amid complex geopolitical dynamics. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has announced that he, along with his Chinese and Russian counterparts, sent a joint letter to the United Nations urging reconsideration of the sanctions reactivation mechanism. He criticized the European Troika's move to reinstate sanctions as politically destructive. Araghchi emphasized that Europe has failed to fulfill its commitments, highlighting these facts as essential for framing any serious dialogue within the UN Security Council. His statements underscore Iran's firm opposition to renewed sanctions and call for a more constructive and honest approach in international negotiations addressing the issue. The head of Iran's Atomic Energy Organization, Mohammad Islami, announced that a third meeting will soon be held between the Iranian Foreign Ministry and the International Atomic Energy Agency to discuss Tehran's nuclear file. Islami, in statements reported by Tasnim news agency, added that the upcoming meeting is part of ongoing talks regarding inspection mechanisms and oversight of nuclear activities. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has met with Prime Minister Nawaf Salam to prepare for the upcoming cabinet session scheduled. Their discussion focused on key agenda items, notably the disarmament of Hezbollah and the consolidation of weapons under state control. During the session, Lebanese Army Commander Rudolf Heikel is expected to present the military's plan to centralize arms exclusively within the state's authority. This meeting underscores the government's intent to address the sensitive issues of armed groups and reinforce state sovereignty over security matters, reflecting ongoing efforts to stabilize Lebanon's internal security framework. Meanwhile, Egypt's ambassador to Beirut, Alet Moussa, has affirmed Egypt's intensive efforts to bolster Lebanon's stability, stressing the urgent need for Israeli withdrawal from southern Lebanon. At a press conference, he underscored the importance of supporting Lebanon politically, economically, and in security, reiterating that exclusive state control over arms is a non-negotiable principle. Moussa clarified that achieving this is an internal Lebanese matter, while Egypt continues close coordination with all stakeholders to safeguard Lebanon's unity and stability. He urged that Lebanon's responses to international proposals must be clear and actionable, emphasizing Egypt's ongoing commitment to assist Lebanon and promote calm on all fronts. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun received the French ambassador to Beirut, Hervé Magro, to discuss the general situation in the country and the issue of renewing the UNIFIL mandate. Ambassador Magro informed President Aoun that the French presidential envoy will visit Lebanon in the coming days on behalf of French President Emmanuel Macron to follow up on developments and prepare for two international conferences aimed at Lebanon's reconstruction and support for the Lebanese army. Yemen now, where the Houthis have claimed they have launched a missile at the Israeli-owned Liberia-flagged tanker Scarlet Ray near Saudi Arabia's Red Sea port of Yanbu. British security firm Ambrey and UK Maritime Trade Operations, the UK MTO, confirmed an explosion near the vessel on Sunday. The crew reported hearing a loud bang but remained unharmed, and the ship continued its voyage. The UK MTO said investigations are ongoing and did not confirm who was responsible. Yemen's capital Sana'a has held funeral ceremonies for several Houthi government ministers killed in Israel's recent airstrike on Yemen. The attack targeted a gathering of Houthi leaders last Thursday, resulting in the assassination of the Houthis' prime minister. The Houthi leader emphasized that the ministers targeted were engaged in civilian affairs. This airstrike marks a significant escalation in the conflict, underscoring the ongoing regional tensions and the heavy toll on Yemen's political leadership. Now to China, where leaders gather in Tianjin for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, shaping regional cooperation and strategy. Turkey's presidency has announced that Turkish President Erdogan informed Russian President Vladimir Putin of Ankara's efforts to achieve a just and lasting solution to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, emphasizing the role of Istanbul talks in advancing peace during their meeting on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in China. They also discussed bilateral relations, Israeli attacks on Gaza, developments in Syria, and peace efforts between Azerbaijan and Armenia. The summit, hosted in Tianjin and opened by Chinese President Xi Jinping, marks Putin's four-day visit to China, where he will hold multiple bilateral and trilateral meetings with regional leaders, including Xi and Mongolia's president. German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephal has said that the war in Ukraine and rising tensions in the Indo-Pacific would top the agenda during his visit to India. Wadephal stressed the need for Germany and India to jointly uphold a rules-based global order amid growing geopolitical challenges. His comments came as Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Russian President Vladimir Putin, reaffirming close ties. Putin referred to Modi as a dear friend and even offered him a ride in his armored limousine. Ukraine's military intelligence has shared a video showing drone strikes targeting two Russian Mi-18 helicopters and a tugboat in Crimea. Reuters partially confirmed the footage's location as Simferopol by matching airport features with satellite images, though the recording date remains unverified. Ukraine's Ghost Special Unit claimed responsibility, saying the strikes caused tens of millions of dollars in damage. Independent verification of the damage could not be made. Now, South Korea has declared a state of national disaster in Gangneung city amid a severe drought, with authorities warning that water rationing may soon be necessary. President Lee Jae-myung made the declaration on Saturday after water levels at the Obong Reservoir, the main supply for Gangneung's 180,000 residents, dropped to historic lows. The National Fire Agency deployed 71 water tankers to deliver 2,500 metric tons of water daily. If reservoir levels fall below 10%, officials said timed or alternative day water rationing will be introduced. A powerful 6.0 magnitude earthquake has struck eastern Afghanistan near Jalalabad around midnight, with hundreds feared dead. The quake, at a shallow depth of 10 kilometers, shook the mountainous region near the Pakistan border. Helicopters have been evacuating the injured, with local residents assisting Taliban forces in moving casualties to ambulances. The disaster comes less than a year after a deadly quake in Herat province killed over 2,400 people back in October 2023. Egypt has expressed profound condolences and sympathy to the Afghan people following the devastating earthquake that struck eastern Afghanistan, causing at least 800 deaths and thousands of injuries. In a statement by the Foreign Ministry, the Egyptian government affirms its full solidarity with Afghanistan during this tragic time, extending heartfelt sympathies to the families who lost loved ones. Egypt also wishes a swift recovery to those who were injured in the disaster. Divers and conservationists planted coral fragments off Oman's Musandam coast during the inaugural Musandam International Diving Festival, a 4-day event promoting marine conservation and ecotourism. The effort included cleanups, free diving and photography contests. Among participants was paraplegic diver Faisal Jawad, who called the dive meaningful. Global studies show 44% of warm water coral species now face extinction, mainly due to rising ocean temperatures. Rescue teams and authorized guides on Mount Etna worked together to ensure tourist safety as the volcano put on a fiery display of lava flow. Tourists are required to stay at least 50 meters from the lava and cannot ascend above 2,500 meters without certified alpine guides. Etna, Europe's most active volcano, erupts frequently, drawing visitors eager for a close-up of its dramatic activity. And just before we go, time to recap the main headlines this evening. Egypt dispatches its 27th aid convoy to Gaza, crossing via the Kerem-Abu Salem border. The Gulf Cooperation Council's final communique stresses the urgent need for a comprehensive ceasefire in Gaza following its latest meeting. And President Vladimir Putin states that Russia and Iran remain in constant communication on key international affairs, including Iran's nuclear program. Thanks for watching. If you want some more news, then you can follow Q News at Qnews EGY on our social media platforms. Thank you very much for being with us this evening, and enjoy the rest of your Monday night.